Oh, you gotta love it. The Petraeus thing, they found something to distract the goy once again. Oh, it's so disgusting. And what a scandal of all scandals. Can you imagine an affair? My God! Why, we've had CIA agents and high-level officials involved in mass murder and torture and taking down governments. Why, killing our own president in conjunction with the Mossad in the past. But an affair! Oh, can it get any worse than that? And as always, the dumbasses fall for this bullshit every friggin' time. Frickin' Hollywood production, man. Oh, Jesus Christ. I want to put my foot through the goddamn TV screen. I can't take it anymore. And, you can't get away from it. It's everywhere. Just like George Orwell said, everywhere you go, you got the video monitors. Everywhere. You can't even get a frickin' coffee or a donut, and there's the damn screen blasting the latest propaganda BS. Oh, I don't know, guys. What a world. What a frickin' world. It just gets more frickin' over the top every day. Anyway, we're going to pick up with our notes from yesterday. I left off, I was reading a quote. Might as well start this over again. Got cut off midstream. It was about hideous killing of Buddhist heretics. Just like what you got in Mormonism. They call for the killing of someone who either leaves the church or speaks against it, but more so someone who leaves the church. That's the ultimate sin, because, you knew better. You were one of us, and now you betrayed us. And so, they claim that the only way you can atone for that sin now is to have your own bloodshed. So very similar to that idea in Buddhism. They call for the killing of one who either betrays the religion or who leaves it. Someone who speaks against it or someone who leaves it and betrays it. And So you can be an outsider who's never been a Buddhist and speak against it. That'll get you killed. Or, even worse, if you were a Buddhist, you saw the light, you leave, and now they'll kill you. This still goes on, by the way. I worked with a woman from Singapore. She told me some horror stories of fathers killing their daughters if, as they got older, they left the religion, and or they would, they would beat them, and sometimes in the process of beating them, they would die, and they never got in trouble for it. All right, guys, short break, right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Anyway, so let's read from this set of Buddhist writings, the Vajrayana Tantra. And, does this sound familiar? It says, after having announced the institution to the Guru and accomplished beings, perform with mercy the rite of killing of one who is a non-believer of the teachings of the Buddha and the detractors of the gurus and Buddhas. So anyone who's a non-believer or a detractor, kill them. Official call for murder of those who pose a problem to the faith. Very similar to what you see, again, in Mormonism. Pretty much all religions at one time or other have embraced this philosophy and carried it out quite effectively. Christianity has a long history of that, doesn't it? Oh, do they love to pride themselves like they're superior to all other religions? All other religions are false. I mean, they all do this to some degree, but nobody does it better than Christianity, ladies and gentlemen. They love to claim that they're the true religion and all the other ones are the heathen, as though they've got something to be proud of. They have such a great heritage. Are you frickin' kidding? From day one. Day one. That's all Christianity has ever done throughout almost all of its entire history, ladies and gentlemen. No religion, in fact, can hold a candle to it when it comes to mass murdering the heretics. They probably got mainstream Judaism itself beat when it comes to that. Anyway, the quote goes on here. One should eliminate such a person, visualizing his form as being upside down, vomiting blood, trembling, and with hair in disarray. Imagine a blazing needle entering his back, then by envisioning the seed syllable of the fire element in his heart, he is killed instantly. This is akin to black magic, if you will. You envision it in your mind, and then he's killed instantly, like you're putting a hex or a curse on him. And if that doesn't work, then you just physically carry it out. The reference here to hanging upside down and vomiting blood sounds unmistakably like a Jewish ritual murder, doesn't it? In which the throat is cut, the victim is hung upside down to let the blood drain from the jugular veins. Doesn't that sound familiar? Once again, guys, when you look at all the connections that we talked about yesterday, it's pretty clear where this philosophy had come from. Also, the practice of puncturing the victims with a needle, which we just read in this last quote, was also common in Jewish ritual murders during the medieval period, and for centuries thereafter, for that matter. I covered that on previous show, probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. Absolutely sick and disgusting practices down through the centuries. They would do this with kids, usually young Gentile boys, strip them naked, torture them to death, and then ultimately kill them. They would put them in a barrel and have spikes sticking up. They would nail spikes through the barrel so that inside, the pointed part of the spikes would be sticking inside. They'd put a young boy in there, seal it up, and then they'd roll it down a hill. So as the boy rolled and rolled and rolled inside the barrel, he kept getting jabbed and jabbed and jabbed with the spikes, and that would slowly, torture and kill the kid. So, oh my God. Let's not forget, a bunch of sick, psychopathic bastards. The Salem witch trials, guys, this went on. They were abusing young girls by sticking pins in them. Probably using them as live voodoo dolls, whatever, in their black mass frickin' rituals. But some of the young girls testified at the witch trials that, they had been stuck with pins. Nobody, of course, paid any attention to it. The dumb, ignorant asses. They said, oh no, they're witches. You can't believe anything a witch says. It's all evil. But looking back now, examining some of the behaviors that they exhibited, of course, they took that for demon possession. But they were exhibiting signs of having been subjected to severe trauma-based abuse. Just like MK Ultra victims, ladies and gentlemen. Same frickin' shit. I pointed out how in Salem they had a dig go on before they extended a highway years back. So they put an exit in for an existing highway, a new exit or whatever. Before they put the road in, though, they did a dig there. Harvard University came in. And they found the remains of corn cob dolls that were used for, like, voodoo-type magic. And they were stuck with pins. So they were doing this with effigies and with actual individuals, just like what was described in the witch trial testimonies. Anyway, but here we have this in Buddhism, guys, the same damn shit from the same damn shit on 2 feet. The Gaya Samaja Tantra also instructs the infliction of murderous injuries upon opponents of Buddhism. Here's what this document says. One draws a man or a woman in chalk or charcoal or similar. Again, guys, this is like, black magic or satanic rituals. You see this all the time. I was hiking with a friend about a year ago right here in my town, and we found such an outline painted on a rock, an obvious spot where rituals were performed. There was an upside-down pentagram, all kinds of occult symbols, but just as described here. You draw a man or a woman in chalk or charcoal. Anyway, we'll pick up with that when we get back. Stick with us. The Gaya Samaja Tantra also goes on to say that once a person is pinned down and can't move, he or she can easily be bewitched, maybe this means drugged, and then can be either poisoned, enslaved, or paralyzed. This sounds like MK Ultra, doesn't it, folks? Where they would strap you down, torment the living Christ out of you, and then, begin the process of programming. Enslave you to their will. Boy, doesn't this sound familiar. Similar instructions are found in the Kalikakatra Tantra. However, such killings are encouraged to be carried out with compassion, says the document. Whatever the hell that means. Kill them with compassion. Tell them you love them as you're stabbing the dagger through them. But anyway, coming back to the Gaya Samaja Tantra, some interesting instructions are given therein to the practitioner in regards to what should be done to the body of the heretic after he or she is killed. It says, afterwards, pills are to be made from his flesh, the consumption of which grants, among other things, the siddhis, or powers, or psychic abilities of skywalking. Well, isn't that interesting? I wonder if that's where they got the name Luke Skywalker from for Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. After all, it is a Jewish supremacist creation, isn't it? Like everything else in Hollywood. Oh, they like to throw terms out there like that blindly, figuring the dumbass goy will have no idea what they're talking about. Look at that, guys. If you want to go skywalking, says this Buddhist document, after you kill your victim, you take some of their flesh, use it to make a pill, which will empower you. This is Judaism, ladies and gentlemen, to the hilt. Every frickin' detail of this. The document goes on the heart blood is especially sought after, and the skull of the killed also possesses magical powers. Oh, yes. Go to your local bookstore and browse through the occult section and look at the names of the authors of all the books. Go to the youth section and look at all the bloody vampire faces on all the covers of the books they're in. And notice the authors' names of those books as well. You'll see that all the names have suffixes of Steen and Berg. They've always been behind this frickin' degrading, demoralizing, disgusting, filthy, violent, blood-laden crap, ladies and gentlemen. Always, always, always. During a great deal of Jewish history, the blood of ritual murder victims was indeed mixed with Passover bread and was believed to empower the partakers. Look at this Buddhist document we just read from. What does it tell them to do? Holy shit, guys. So now you go back and review what we talked about yesterday, the historical connections. There was a migration of Jews to India at the very time that the Buddhist religion began. We have the stories of Buddha's, mythological life, having faced 3 temptations from the Buddhist equivalent of the devil. Exact same story that was applied to Christ 5 centuries later. Look at all this filth about blood sacrifice and killing of the heretic. And holy shit, guys. Do you need any more proof where this frickin' philosophy came from? And once again, the dumbass masses think that Buddhism is a benign religion or even a beneficial one. It's all about peace and harmony, and the hell it is. Of course, they think that about Christianity, too, don't they? People think of Christianity, most of them anyway, all they think of is, peace, the Prince of Peace, love your neighbor. And look how much peace and love they've brought to mankind all throughout the history of Christianity. Anyway, interestingly, speaking of eating flesh and drinking blood, didn't Jesus himself say, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can't see the kingdom of heaven? And Christians apologists will be quick to say, oh, no, he's talking metaphorically. It doesn't friggin' matter. Where did this sick, twisted-sounding philosophy come from? Who's had this long history of eating flesh and drinking blood, ladies and gentlemen? Why would he even say that in the first place, knowing how hideous it sounds, knowing it would turn people off? Why, in the context of that story being related, we're told of a great many Samaritans getting up and leaving. And then his disciples questioned him, Lord, you're scaring people away. And then he looks at them and he says, what about you? Are you going to leave too? Even though I'm talking psychopathically, aren't you going to stay with me? Still follow me, even though I'm filling your ears with psychopathic sounding filth? Oh no, that's not a nut job talking there. That's God and incarnated in human flesh. Yeah. God with horns, fangs, and claws. The same one who says, you Gentiles don't know what you worship, but we Jews do, for salvation is of the Jews. How about when he told the Samaritan woman, this is my personal favorite. She comes to him and asks him to heal her daughter, and he blows her off. So she presses him more. And finally he looks over and he says, I only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. In other words, don't bother me, you lowlife. I'm not here for you. She presses him more. And then he says, it's not fit for the master to throw his food to the dogs. And then she says, oh, true, Lord, but the master at least throws the dogs some crumbs. And finally he says, oh, great is your faith, woman. Be it done unto you. Bring me your daughter, and I will heal her. You admitted that you're a lowlife, and us Jews are so superior to you. Okay, I'll heal your daughter now. You dumb Goya minion, you. It's good of you to admit that you're a dog. Oh, the loving, wonderful Jesus. You can't see now that this comes from the same source that Buddhism does, ladies and gentlemen. Jewish supremacism. Your head is forever wedged up your ass. I can't do anything, nor can anybody else do anything for you. You're lost. You're gone. You're hopeless. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. I got a caller here I'm going to go to in just a minute, but I have to get this point in there. Another commonality here. As was the case in medieval Europe, heretic books in Buddhist countries have long been the target of witch hunts and have been committed to flames. This has been a common practice throughout the history of Buddhism. Heretic books that speak against Buddhism commit to the flames. Again, a surefire, guarantee that you're dealing with a false religion, ladies and gentlemen, whenever they have to do this to the opposition. Mistreat the opposer themselves, himself or herself, and or destroy their writings. You got something to hide. Your religion can't withstand being put under the spotlight. You have to crush out any hint of opposition. They all do it, so, it's over right there. All religions are false for that reason. They've all done it, guys. They condemn the naysayer and their writings, If any religion was true out there, if there was one that was true, that was pure, they wouldn't have to resort to things like that. If the damn thing was true, it would stand up on its own, wouldn't it? You wouldn't have to worry about what the naysayers say. In fact, you would encourage people to put it under close scrutiny. And it would be so clear and obvious that it's true that anyone who chose not to believe it was shooting themselves in their own foot, and you'd feel sorry for them, wouldn't you? You would pray for them. And you'd be all too willing to enter into a debate if the naysayer was willing, wouldn't you? You wouldn't shun the opportunity. You wouldn't shy away from it and just hide in the shadows and condemn that person. You'd come right out in the open and address the things head on. So you can expose them and hopefully, not only stop them from leading others astray, but hopefully save their soul too, because you're supposed to love that person. Holy shit, guys, that's never the case. Never. 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 And yet these blind, dumbass frickin' followers of this bullshit insist that they're right, you're wrong. It's all the same, guys. They all do it. All of them play this same frickin' game. They love to condemn everybody else's religion and point out the problems with it. But when you point out that those same damn problems exist in their religion, oh no, that's a different story. Their religion gets a free ride for having the same problems that they condemn other religions for. Oh my God, it will drive you frickin' mad. Ultimately, religion will drive you into the madhouse. But, in spite of all these problems, these obvious contradictions, it doesn't matter for the religious-minded. It doesn't matter, guys. They're going to defend it till their dying day because somehow they just can't imagine life without it. Even though they know there's problems, well, some of them will never admit that, but there's a great many who will. They'll admit it. Oh, yeah, I know there's serious problems, but, I just can't let go of it. It's like a drug addict. I know this stuff is killing me. I know it's not solving my problems. My problems are getting worse, but I just gotta have it. They'll mortgage their frickin' house. They'll go into the poorhouse to get their fix, even though it's killing them and ruining everybody else's life around them. Religion is the same way. Anyway, let's go to our caller here. And just like drugs will put you in the poorhouse, so will religion, too. Suck your wallet dry. The parallels go on and on. Anyway, welcome to the show, caller.
Yeah, Charlie?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? This is Dave. I just wanted to point out some things. How are you? Yesterday and today, I was looking into some information that I found on Buddhism and about the chanting, and also that the chanting is related to, they have a person who initiates the chant, and similar to the cantor in the synagogue. Also, there's something called the Deva Path, which supposedly inspired the movie series and the books Hellraiser, about the separation of the flesh.
Yep.
And the supposed 6 Buddhist realms of reincarnation. So it's like, it's this really violent stuff where, they're into skinning people alive. So I just wanted to put that out there because this is all information that you can find out about Buddhism, and then also about the how it's related to such cult films as Hellraiser, which is basically based on the religion itself, but based on its ancient precepts. So I just wanted to let your listeners know about that, and also about the chanting. They can look into that and see the direct relationship between what Jews do, and also about the chanting, the mantras.
And once again,
kind of programming in itself.
In the West, Buddhism is most popular in the Jewish community. Most of your major leaders in Buddhism in the West are Jews.
True. That is very true.
Yeah.
It's not much of a stretch to go from one social club to the next. It's kind of fits right in. They both have violent past history, and a lot of the things that when I pointed out that film, if your audience can just go look at the first one, they'll see some of the things that they mentioned in that film, like a Cenobite. I think it's I don't know how to spell it. But actually, it's a reference to something from the Torah. So there's something that throw out there for people to know the references, and that what you're saying it actually does have not only a connection, it's directly tied to it.
Yeah. Unreal, man.
Wonderful.
And again, this is so contrary.
Yeah,
so contrary to most people's perception of Buddhism. They think of it as something good, something wholesome. And the analogy with Christianity is very apt here, very fitting. Most people have that perception of Christianity, too, because they'll think of, well, my next-door neighbor, he's a Christian, he's a nice guy. But that doesn't save Christianity. It says something nice about that neighbor. He personally is a nice person. If he was a Muslim, he'd be a nice person, too, because it's in him. Due to upbringing or sometimes genetics, some people are more predisposed to being mellow and kind, because of genetics or upbringing, background, whatever. But it says nothing about the religion. Look at the history of the religion. Look at all the misery and suffering it's caused. That doesn't say anything good or redeeming about the religion. It's the same with Buddhism. Buddhism is a piece of shit, just like all other religions. They're all pieces of frickin' horse anal excretions. And if you see a good Buddhist, well, he's a good person. That's all there is to it. It has nothing to do with his religion.
Yeah, so I always wondered about that. How religion can also change people, like the ones, the hypothetical people you're mentioning. How someone can go from being a great person, nice person, and then joining a cult, or I call these religions cults, but joining one of these religions, and then all of a sudden changing.
Sure.
Where they become either the least they can become is someone who's overly zealous about defending their God and their so-called religion. But then you have the overboard people who actually do go out and fight wars, or enlist or recruit people to go fight wars. You know, like we have now in this country. The average person is Christian going over there fighting in Afghanistan.
The most common negative result that you'll see in most converts, whatever religion it is fanaticism. You know, they want to purify themselves and reach the pinnacle of development in their cult. And almost every time it'll lead them to legalism and fanaticism. Most of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know that in early Christianity and also Judaism, same thing. If you thought certain things, you had to flog yourself. You had to basically,
self-flagellation, sure.
Through pain and blood.
It's still big.
Exactly. So you see that.
In the Catholic Church, it's still big all around the world. You don't see it so much in this country, but in third world countries, oh, hell yeah. There's a guy every year, he still does it at Easter time in the Philippines. He has him nailed to a cross in a public square to make a statement about his wonderful Savior. And Christian apologists will say, oh, well, he's a nut, he's a fanatic, he's an extremist. No, he's just following the gory filth that's in your holy book. The same ones who would condemn that, those same Christians will go to watch, Mel Gibson's film over and over and over again with the gore and the blood, and they'll take their kids. They won't let their kid watch a violent movie on TV, but they'll have them watch that violence, and somehow it's okay because it's Jesus. Oh, you gotta love that.
Religious porn.
What a crack of bullshit. Anyway, you want to hold on, man? We got a break.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
All right, folks, right back. Did you ever hear that frickin' Tibetan chant bullshit? Is that frickin' warped
or
what?
Yeah.
Holy Christ, you gotta love
scary.
It. And then you'll turn around and you'll take a needle with a thread and pass it through your penis. Would you like a needle and thread, David, to pass it through your penis too? It will bring you great enlightenment. This is Jewish supremacist. All the way. While getting you to think that you're reaching a higher level of development, you're arriving spiritually. They're making the biggest, complete, colossal asses out of you. And laughing all the while. Sticking the needle and thread. This goes back to ancient times. Did you know that the Maya did this? Which really makes you wonder where the Maya got that from in the first place. I got to do a show on this sometime.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely been some connections with what goes on, what went over here in so-called indigenous.
I think the Maya, there's such a great mystery what happened to the Mayan civilization. Why did they just collapse suddenly? Some of the pyramids were found with, knives and other implements right on the steps as they dug. They found the stuff just left there, and it was buried by the dust of time over the centuries, but they literally just dropped what they were doing on the spot and fled. Why? What happened? The thing collapsed because I'm convinced Jewish supremacists brought the damn thing down. They found murals, clay pots with multicultural scenes, people with yellow, red, dark, brown, and even white skin. They brought in mass illegal immigration into the Mayan society and collapsed it from within. We know they were there. They left their shit stains all over the Mayan Empire. They actually found 2 Star of Davids to date. That doesn't necessarily imply Judaism because the Hindus use that symbol as well. But there are Hebrew loan words in the Mayan language. There's a famous stela called the phylactery stela found in one of the famous Mayan sites. I forget which one. I think it was Tikal. Actually, that's Guatemala.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, there
was one at Tikal as well.
Yeah. But it depicts a Mayan priest with a beard, by the way. Natives don't grow beards, but Jews grow them. And he's got a phylactery around his wrist, wrapped in the exact same way that they wrap them. And then he's got a strap with a looks like a leather pouch on his forehead. So
interesting.
They were there. They were there.
Oh, they were definitely. I mean,
they were North America too. There's all kinds of artifacts that have been found showing that they were here. But anyway, that's another story. But you can always tell where they've been, can't you? They leave their shit stains everywhere. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
what I was saying about with the Buddhism, they're also into they are a type of eating, whatever they call it. They go on some type of fasting, and I think you touched upon that yesterday. I heard a little bit of it, but they don't fast for. If you fast for like your health, or you fast for weight, that's considered vanity. You have to fast for suffering, and you have to fast for spiritual enlightenment or whatever. You're not supposed to fast.
You got to do it in the name of Yahweh, or else it's evil. Sure, you're just like killing. You can't kill. That's bad.
Oh yeah.
But if you kill for Yahweh, well, that's good. It's okay. Kill all you want as long as you do it in Yahweh's name. Rape, that's fine too.
Right.
The Old Testament is filled with that stuff. Rape, have slaves, as long as it's for the glory of Yahweh. There's nothing too evil you can do it. It's not evil because Yahweh blesses you. It's holy.
True, and they're always stressing that one should never be basically contradict oneself, because it's that their creator, the one that they espouse the teachings of, never goes back on his word. So I'm thinking, well, what you just said there about it's okay to kill, is that not a contradiction if your creator, whether you're talking about the creator's prophet, Buddha, or you're talking about the creator itself, himself? Does that make a difference if the creator or the prophet tells you not to kill, but then all of a sudden it's okay to kill if you kill in my name? It still puzzles me. I don't get it, and how people can become resolved with that.
That's Jewish supremacism for you. That's why, they think that they're magic, because they can wave that magic wand of religion and get people to do and believe the most ridiculous, incredibly insane concepts. Just look around you, Dave. They're everywhere. Go to the Bible Belt. You want to really see how that plays out? What's that?
No, I was saying too many of them, because here in Florida, it's just this place is swimming in Jews and Christian supporters. I mean, you can't even speak out against them, because first of all, you don't know who you're talking to, and then second, when you usually come up against a Christian person, they'll say, "Oh, you shouldn't say things about that because I like it's bad luck because something's going to happen to you, or because you'll go to hell because you're talking against God's chosen people."
Yeah.
And they still don't get it. That, whether you're Buddhist or Jew or Christian, there's no such thing as a chosen person, that's one. So I guess when you don one of these types of religious veils, you all of a sudden, your rationality goes out the window, and you have to take a pecking order. You take a number and you get in line based on your religion. Depending on your religion, you're closer to the chosen ones. So if you're Buddhist, you're kind of closest to something, because you're not a heathen or a pagan. A pagan is someone who has no number, and you're not in line. A Christian is, I guess, number two, because they're right after the Jews, so they're right in line for being chosen for paradise and salvation.
There's an online Bible website that I frequently go to. Not that I look for it specifically, but if I'm in a hurry, I'm trying to look a verse up, if I'm working on a show to expose that piece of shit book, I'll type in a verse in a search engine, and it's almost always the same website that pops up. I don't remember what it is now, BibleOnline.com, whatever the hell it is. Anyway, I was in there the other day, and at the top I see a banner ad, and it's got a Star of David symbol on it. I'm like, oh, this will be good. I wonder what the hell they're selling now. So I read the ad, and it's advertising for Christians. It says, click here to sign the petition. And it goes on talking about how, Israel has the right to its land that God gave them. Sign this petition in support of Israel to ensure that, they're never pressured again to give up any land, that belongs to them, that rightly belongs to them. How many dumbass frickin' Bible-chomping Christians have clicked on that frickin', you mindless, stupid ass. I'm telling you, I'm reaching a point where these people annoy me just as much as the Jewish supremacist pigs themselves. Most Christians, not all of them. There's some that aren't that stupid, and they're slightly more tolerable. Their book still annoys me, and their religious rants still get on my nerves, but you're outright in your face Zionist Christians.
Awakening.
Yeah, I would hope
I
so.
think there are people who are actually getting the picture, you know, especially those who, you know, that I have turned onto your show. I think they're getting the idea that, you know, because I used to sit with people and just listen to them tolerating the whole, you know, scripture reading. And then you know, after some point, I just have to say something. I just have to speak out. You know, when they start to, I know some Christians, they say, "Oh, well, I only listen to the Old Testament, and the New Testament is actually a fraud." I've actually heard some Christians say this. So,
Sure. The New Testament is the Old Testament. It's just repackaged. It's the Old Testament.
Exactly.
You can't possibly separate the two. Holy crap, man.
No, they just come to this conclusion that, you know, some are New Testament believers, some are Old Testament believers, and they don't get it that, you know, the whole book is just one big campaign, and whether you go for the first 33 or the latter 33, or you know, the newer 33, it's all the same. 33.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just another Jewish supremacist mind screw job.
Yeah, and it's working, unfortunately. So what do? You do like I do. If people want to learn for themselves, sure, go ahead, read the Bible. Go ahead, read it, but read it with an objective mind. Don't get suckered. Don't, you know, automatically take it at face value. Look at it for what it is, and then if you want to be smart, go try to research it and compare it with what you can find as far as factual history. You'll find that most of this book, if not all of it, is fairy tale.
Yeah.
It should stay in the realm of fairy tale.
You got it. All right, buddy. Thanks for the call, man.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, take care. Be right back, folks. Short break. More interesting revelations coming up regarding Buddhism in more modern times, but let's first go to get another caller here on the line. Welcome, caller, to the show. How's it hanging, man?
Oh, pretty good. I guess you hear me, huh? This is me?
Yeah, you're on the air.
All right, man. I got some good for you, Charlie. I've been listening to you for a long time, and I know how you get into the Jewish supremacist thing and how they're at the top of every organization you can think of. And it's usually the case. I can't think of any organization, major organizations that they're not the major part of. And I was talking about this at the break room a couple of days ago, and I said I just told some people at work to take a subject and we get into it. We can find out who's at the top, and guarantee it'll be one of those EJPs. And one of the girls at the work table threw out Steve Jobs and Apple, and said that this guy wasn't Jewish, but he was Buddhist. So that's one of the things I was wanting to bring up. I don't know if you had any contradictory information to that or not, but that was just something that surprised me, because usually I cannot find an exception to the rule with the Jewish supremacists being the top of the pyramid anywhere, and she brought up that Steve Jobs was a Buddhist, so it surprised me. I had to look it up, and I couldn't find anything contradicting to say he was Jewish or crypto-Jewish or anything else. As far as I know, in his biography she was reading, it said that he was a Buddhist. I didn't know if you had anything on that one or not.
Well, I mean, his partner Wozniak. You don't get more Jewish than that.
Okay, so that's probably the link that I did not catch. Me, I knew I was trying to find it on his successor, and I couldn't find anything on that guy either. So,
but you know,
I was curious about.
But like I said, Buddhism really is Judaism in a different form, just like Christianity. You lift up the rug, and holy crap, they started it. They've been controlling it. Nobody can argue today that the Buddhist movement, certainly in the West, is completely run by Jews. Just like the New Age movement, Satanism is as Jewish as you can get. So, either directly or indirectly, following one of these cults, you're following Judaism. They've got you hook, line, and sinker when you're following one of these Jewish-run enterprises. They've got you. Your philosophy, your way of thinking and acting. Even if you're not aware of it, you're being manipulated by them.
Yeah, I hear that. It was just a surprise to me because it was probably a day before you got onto this Buddhism subject that she mentioned that, and it's like, whoa, kind of caught me with a hook or something. It caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to hear anything different than Jewish supremacists at the top of every organization, and she threw that out. So it kind of threw me off guard, so it kind of shut me up for a moment until I looked into it. So Yeah, it's kind of funny. The very next day, you started on the Buddhism subject and kind of cleared that up. But
Yeah.
it was a funny thing, coincidental that the day before you started the subject, that was brought up, and I just wanted to bring that one up there since you're on the subject.
But Stella, the two top people in Apple up until recently when Jobs died, one was an undeniable Jew. They're always there. They're always there. They either permeate the thing or at least that their presence is there, so they wind up directing it, in their favor. Anyway, thanks for calling, buddy.
Oh, yeah, that's it, man. Keep it there, Charles. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Be right back, folks. All right, guys, welcome back. As I was saying, not much has changed in modern times in Buddhist-dominated countries. Modern heretics are still faced with exclusion from political office and even threats of death for their non-belief in Buddhism. There's even a secret society in Tibet dedicated to the rooting out of Buddhist heretics. It's actually known as the Secret Society for the Destruction of Internal and External Enemies of Tibet. If you're an enemy of, their Buddhist religion, you're an enemy of Tibet. And so they have this secret society designed to root you out. Secret society. How more Jewish can you get than that, ladies and gentlemen? Jewish supremacists have been behind all secret societies. Where do you think they even got the idea for a secret society from? In more modern times, Jewish influence and control within Buddhism continues as it has in the past, even more so, perhaps. For example, in 1989, Tibet's Buddhist leader, the Dalai Lama, met with a group of Jewish delegates in New Jersey to discuss the commonalities of Judaism and Buddhism, if you will. A year later, 8 Jewish delegates were invited to Dharamsala, India, the home of Tibet's government in exile, to answer the Dalai Lama's question, what is the secret of Jewish spiritual survival in exile? Oh, you didn't have to call a panel of Jews to answer that. Anybody who's familiar with these people could tell them that secret. You just infiltrate a government, manipulate the politicians to help suck dry the population as you line your pockets. There you go. That's their secret. Nothing hard to figure out there. Anyway, in 1997, dozens of Seders for Tibet took place nationwide from San Francisco to Cape Cod. In Washington, D.C., the Dalai Lama attended a Seder for Tibet, whose guests included a Supreme Court justice, leaders in the Jewish community, and other dignitaries. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, expressed his deep gratitude for the prayers and support from Jews worldwide. So there's a very close relationship there, isn't there? There always has been. Can't deny the connections, guys. My God, it's unbelievable. They got their frickin' ass-picking fingers in every pie, don't they? And if they weren't there from the start creating the damn thing, whatever it is that we're talking about, whatever organization, whatever structure, then they will get their fingers in later to make sure that they control it. But as it turns out, most of these things, they actually started them from the word go. And Buddhism is yet another example of that. But notice the term His Holiness. That's what the Dalai Lama has himself referred to as. Where else have we seen that term before? Another Jewish supremacist created cult leader? The Pope, perhaps? Anyway. So I get, that's essentially it. There's a couple more points here, but they're kind of redundant. In a nutshell, guys, that's it. Buddhism, another Jewish supremacist creation. Its beliefs, its practices, its rituals, the whole damn thing across the board, and no surprise. Right from its inception, you had this mass migration, like I said, into India, right at the time Buddhism was starting. Oh, need any more be said? So that's it on that. The duration of the show, I thought I would start a new topic, actually a new series of topics. In the past I've talked about the Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution. In the future we'll talk about other revolutions, the Spanish Revolution back in the 1930s. We're going to talk about the German revolutions of 1848. And, we've talked about the American Revolution before, although we're going to be getting back into that following this show. First, I want to talk about the French Revolution. With all of these things, guys, Jewish supremacist fingerprints have been there all along, right from the word go, funding it, directing it, every step of the way. So let's look at the French Revolution. We're going to see the frickin' shitty fingerprints all over this. And then we're going to look again at the American Revolution, this time specifically at the Boston Tea Party. We'll do that, in the coming days. I might get to that tomorrow after I finish the French Revolution. And then I think from there we're going to take a tour of at least the first half of the 19th century anyway. I might carry it on up into the Lincoln era and debunk some of the myths that are prevalent, even in the so-called truth movement. I was a victim of those myths myself for the longest time, thinking that Lincoln, stinking Lincoln, was this great, admirable icon of Americanism. What a bunch of BS, man. He was a raging piece of shit. He was the George Bush of the 19th century, guys. In fact, he might even have been worse than Bush. Anyway, so, we'll get into that. We're going to talk about Mr. Andrew Jackson, another myth that is widely circulated in the so-called truth movement, as though he was some kind of hero standing up against the bankers. He was a piece of crap as well. Mass murderer of Native Americans, for one thing. But he was by no means an enemy of the bankers. His pockets were being lined by them like every other corrupt piece of crap we've had in the White House, pretty much without exception. Almost without exception. Anyway, so we'll look at the French Revolution. We'll start to look at it anyway. Lots of interesting revelations in that regard, guys, coming up. Be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. So let's look at the French Revolution. See if you can't find the same sleazy fingerprints all over this thing. The French Revolution, 1789 to 1799, was a period, of course, of political and social upheaval. Oh, our Jewish supremacists love that, don't they? During which the French governmental structure, previously an absolute monarchy with feudal privileges for the aristocracy and the Catholic clergy alike, underwent radical change toward Enlightenment principles of nationalism, citizenship, and inalienable rights. Doesn't that sound familiar? It was made out to look like a grand awakening, a movement of the masses. It was a movement on the masses, as always, a bowel movement, just like the the Bolshevik Revolution, guys. It was sold to the Russian people as the savior of the worker. They always tout themselves as the champion of the underdog and the oppressed. They're the ones doing the oppression. Classic Hegelian dialectic, guys. You create a problem, you get the masses pissed off, and then you come along and propose the solution. You blow smoke up their ass and make it sound, like something glorious. And you get them to acquiesce because they think it's going to be their salvation. And what you offer them in reality is a situation far worse than the one they were initially in. And by the time they realize it, it's too damn late. It's already, the damage is done. So, this is what we got with Bolshevik Revolution, the French Revolution, and, guys, also the American Revolution. Freedom, liberty, and justice for all. Well, guess whose freedom, liberty, and justice they were talking about? Guess who that all is? All the Jewish supremacists. Look at the mess we're in now, guys. Do you see where freedom, liberty, and justice for all will get you every time when you open your doors to these bastards? Look at the mess your country is in, guys. You almost don't have a country anymore. Look at the havoc that they have wreaked. And so it was in France, guys, the same damn thing. These changes were accompanied by violent turmoil, vast bloodshed, repression, and warfare involving every other major European power, ultimately. Subsequent events that can be traced directly to the French Revolution include the Napoleonic Wars, two separate restorations of the monarchy, and two additional revolutions as modern France took shape. All of this directly growing out of that initial disaster. In the following century, France wound up being governed variously as a republic, a dictatorship, a constitutional monarchy, and two different empires. And yet, again, the French Revolution was supposed to be the savior of France. Liberty, fraternity, equality. What a bunch of crap, man. The rallying cry and motto in France at the time was just that. It's right out of a Masonic handbook is what it is. They seem like worthy goals, right? Who doesn't want liberty? Who doesn't want equality? Who doesn't want fraternity? But what did it really mean? Liberty for who? Equality for who? Fraternity for who? They wanted acceptance. They wanted the doors open wide to them. I've pointed out on previous shows, guys, there have been uprisings all through the centuries, all through the millennia, and every damn time such a thing occurred, immediately following, laws were passed in the target country that specifically mentioned Jews. Specifically. That wasn't done here, of course, because that would have been too obvious. But simply by saying liberty, justice for all, they were included. And because they were included, the doors were wide open for them, and thus they were able to wreak their havoc without any check on their little scheme. Look where we're at, guys. My God, this country, the blood from the Revolutionary War hadn't even soaked into the ground yet, and they're already setting up their central bank, or at least, the early stages of what was intended to be a central bank, the second bank of the United States. Hell, for that matter, even before the damn revolution, you had the Bank of, the Bank of North America. that closed, but then shortly after, 1791 to be exact, you had the First Bank of the United States, established by Mr. Hamilton. We'll get into that later, but, anybody who thinks George Washington was a great American patriot, you'll see what a piece of shit he was when we talk about Mr. Hamilton. Anyway, the actual meaning and operation of these three terms, liberty, fraternity, equality, was absolutely diabolical. Again, totally Freemasonic in origin. And when we talk about Freemasonry, what are we really talking about? Talking about Jewish supremacism. One of the little fronts that they've always worked, behind, using it as a cloak. Illuminist doublespeak. Masonic and also Illuminist, Weishaupt came along and adopted these same ideas. Anyway, once again, guys, these terms do have a genuine meaning. Some people say, oh, they just use those terms to fool the people. No, they did intend liberty, equality, and fraternity. But for who? Not for the French people. Oh, no. No, there was another different people they had in mind when they used those terms. Anyway, so, liberty meant liberty for Jewish supremacists to do whatever the hell they wanted. Fraternity amongst themselves and to be accepted within the French population. And equality, ultimately supremacism, ultimately superiority. But initially, this idea of equality, accept us as one with you. Later, we'll trample you underfoot and exalt ourselves above you, but before we can get to that point, you have to accept us at least as equal with you. We're all equal. No one's better than anybody else. Of course, we know we're better than you. And if we can't convince you that we're better than you now, later we will by law. We'll have you bow before us or we'll have you executed, That's their ultimate goal with their Jew world order. All right, guys, short break, right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Got another caller here. I'll go to him or her in just a second. To attain these goals of liberty, equality, fraternity, a Masonic physician, Dr. Guillotine, invented the bloody head-chopping blade machine known as the guillotine, and soon heads began to roll. He was a Mason, naturally. The king and queen were just two of thousands that were executed. Next, perceiving the guillotine as too cumbersome and too slow, since only one person could be executed at one time, other more efficient killing methods were employed. This ensuing reign of chaos and horror was known as the Reign of Terror. And so we'll look at that in some more detail in a minute here, but let's go to our caller. How's it going, caller?
Hello, Charles?
Oh, hey, yep, you're on.
Hi. Hello, how are you? This is Michelle Rosen. I'm calling totally different topic, and I noticed that a lot of callers do that. But I'm calling about the 1982 Tylenol murders you covered last week.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think I've gotten emails from you, haven't I?
I just wanted to tell you, I'm the daughter. I'm the daughter. I was the one you guys were talking about. And,
are you the one that
my husband was the one that sent you the tip.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. Right. Yeah,
well,
thanks for that.
I just came across the podcast.
That's a hell of a read.
My husband was listening. It was so awesome how deep you went into it. But I've never heard someone read the book and talk about it without us. So it was fascinating to hear all the research. Obviously, you read it. It was great.
Yeah.
But I wanted to tell you, this, when you're going into the people and their last names and saying, that sounds Jewish or whatever, I wanted to let you know, my last name is Rosen. I'm not Jewish. So I can't have, when you say that.
Oh, no, did I say that?
Right. No. You didn't say it about me.
Oh.
I'm saying we can't assume the power might be Jewish. In the end, it always is. But I'm saying, what does somebody like me do, whose husband's great-grandpa, when he came over, changed his last name to get in with the Jew bankers in New York? So how do you go about that when I'm going against this conspiracy? I'm trying to uncover this madness of people dead and all this, but I'm not Jewish. My last name is Rosen.
Yeah, I've been accused of being a Jew because I have Giuliani as my last name. Oh, you got to be kidding.
Yeah, we've been invited to many Jewish events, and when we get in the door, when they realize that we're not, we've been uninvited immediately. But anyway, fascinating for November 5th and the 6th. Sorry, my husband's a little delayed in listening to podcasts. He listens to everyone, but he's about a week behind. So I wanted to tell you, I'd love to talk to you more about this, and wanted to let you know there was a book even before the one that you were talking about was Timers.
Yeah.
And wanted to let you know that that was the first of the 3-series chronicle that we have. And I know you mentioned the Tylenol Man, which I will send to you. But the one before that was the Tylenol Mafia, Marketing, Murder, and Johnson & Johnson. That one is the one that got some nationwide attention. We've had like 80,000 sales in that one. So that's the encyclopedia of everything that went down, every connection to all of this.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to thank you, though, babe. It was fantastic hearing someone talk like I do about it, and
now that I
have an audience. So
now that I got you on, I wanted to ask you one thing that I might not have caught it. Maybe I wasn't looking for it at the time when I read it. You might have mentioned this in the book, but one thing that wasn't clear to me, the lawsuits that were in place prior to the murders, were they dropped? Were all of them dropped, or just some of them dropped as a result of, did people back away because they felt bad for the company and didn't want to sue them now because of the,
That was a great point that you made, and I don't know that the lawsuits actually came after the murders. These things weren't even they didn't even know Tylenol.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the lawsuits regarding the tampering with the,
No, right. Right. No.
But weren't there suits pending?
The actual acetaminophen overdoses and things. Yeah.
I thought there were suits actually before that, though.
Of just people that are talking about Tylenol, but the ones that actually died before the main event, before this big, people were dropping dead from Tylenol-laced or cyanide-laced Tylenol before the actual 7. These are just 7 noted victims. My mom and 6 others are just the day of. This is the big day. I'm sure that the ones that supposedly committed suicide, it goes so deep with the few that had died of cyanide-laced Tylenol up to 6 months before my mom and the actual event happened. There were people dying that.
They were pertaining to cyanide too, then, specifically. I thought it was over.
There were people dying of cyanide-laced Tylenol before this happened. When you started off with James Burke, the CEO, reminiscing about these thoughts of maybe some Tylenol might be tampered with,
it was amazing
to finally hear. Yes. What if something happened? What happened if something happened to our $150 billion a year in sales? That was awesome. And all of that because they knew they had a problem in distribution. But when you cover it and you talk about it without talking to Scott or I, it was fantastic because you have the same outlook as Michael Rivero with whatreallyhappened.com. He believes the person who poisoned this is a planted person in the distribution center to do it, to promote the safety seal.
And hence the cover-up.
My husband always said, follow the money trail. Go down to the patent office, find out who patented the safety seal first, and you got yourself the murderer.
Sure.
So
the ones who had the most to gain from it were the ones handling the whole thing, gathering up all the evidence.
When in history have you ever seen all the evidence from a murder scene handed over? When you said that, you said exactly what I've been saying. You don't go to the murderer. You don't go to the person who robbed your house and tell him to take inventory, please. What is missing? So the idea that the FBI turned over all of the evidence to the culprits is amazing. And to destroy it. You know what
Yeah.
they could have done with all of that information? Do you
Oh,
understand what they could have done with all of the
Sure.
stuff that was flushed down the toilet? Not only were they endangering all of us, but what they could have done with that info. And when the
take
caller
this
that came-
deadly
that called
poison and flush it down the freaking toilet. Not only is it important evidence, but it's a deadly poison. Let it leach into the ground.
Don't breathe it, don't touch it, but flush it so you can take a shower in it tomorrow and your babies can bathe in it. Yeah. I have the footage actually from that day. I have the footage from NBC or whatever, Walter Cronkite, and they have the Chicago police with their old school police cars with the metal, the steel bumpers and their bullhorns going, flush it down the toilet, flush it. It's a great scene. It's a great scene. But
unbelievable.
Anyway,
whatever happened to Burke the Jerk? Is he still around?
Who is it?
Well, Burke the Jerk. Is he still around?
Oh, here. How about this? How about this? You're going to love it. I don't know why, but you're going to love it. I had the September 28th, the day before the 30-year anniversary, just a month ago. He died.
Oh, no
kidding. He died in his bed. He died in his bed the day before the 30-year anniversary. Now, what's amazing in that, and I don't know, that it was ongoing health issues. Now, every interview that Scott and I have ever done, we've always said, they say, what is your goal in this? Well, one, to unseal the documents and, to get some justice and go back through court, because in the end, the lawsuits and everything else, I got $96,000. Thank you. I watched my mom drop dead in front of my eyes at 8 years old, and I got $96,000 and waited 9 years through court to get it. So anyway,
by putting that off, they got people so wearied that they'd be willing to accept.
And then the lawyers come in. Oh my gosh! And they claim $40 million was given to the families. They always say that, but they got a gag on it. Yeah, it's awesome.
And of course, you got to seal those documents.
Yep. Still sealed to this day, not even for me. I don't even know. What I find out from the investigation is when a friend tells me that they have it on mainstream media, I find out with the rest of the world when it's on the news. We don't even get anything, and I'm an active person in this investigation. But anyway, I wanted to tell you that James Burke, scum, evil man, glad he's dead. But Scott and I always said our end goal is, in the end, we just want to rip away this gold medal for the gold standard of crisis management.
Well, if there's a hell, let's hope he's roasting over an open flame right now. We got a break coming. You want to hold on? Or?
Sure.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to get you guys on as a guest sometime. Anyway, stick with us, folks.
Oh, my gosh, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, we'll have to set that up.
Okay.
Anyway.
And this is just...
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. All right, guys. Welcome back. So, we were talking during the break. I'm going to have you and your husband on. Just email me later, and we'll set it up. Anytime. I don't have anybody booked for a while, so all my days are freed up. So, grab whatever you guys want later this month or next month, whatever. Yeah,
the thing about this case is that it goes so deep. You can literally talk for 2 straight years on all the fraud and the corruption behind this, the conspiracy behind this. You can literally talk about this for two straight years, and it doesn't end. The tentacles are so deep everywhere. The whole case as a whole, and to hit the 30 years and to have this still covered up, where us family members, we can't get anything, and they're still doing their song and dance. That original theory, which we have debunked a long time ago, and we're the only people, Scott, the author, and myself, nobody has ever talked about this case. And when you bring it up, it's amazing that people say, wait a minute, I thought that guy was caught. I'm like, no, that was the extortion writer. That was that. And then they keep bringing it up. And if you remember back in May of 2011, to keep this FOIA thing going, suppressed completely, they were accusing the Unabomber of this in 2011, in May of 2011. And they started with this whole thing when Scott, the author, went to the FBI and said, I have all this information. This happened in the distribution channel. I've got all these lot numbers. I've got everything to prove that. And that's when the case got reactivated here in DuPage County in the Chicago suburbs. Yeah. They planted evidence. They did all kinds of things to get this thing moving again. And conveniently, sealed it up again. And they just started wrongfully accusing people to keep it supposedly active. It's not active.
It's the same thing, right? Keep it active, and then they don't have to release any documents. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's just like
if they do that with a 25-year cold case, they can do that.
Right. Man, oh man. It's just like the anthrax attacks, They were hoping it was going to get swept under the rug and people were going to forget about it. But as pressure was put on them, what's going on with the anthrax investigation? We haven't heard anything. Finally, they took this. They just picked this guy at random, Bruce Ivins. They said he did it. There's no way he could have done it. He didn't have the expertise that were required, nor did he have any assistance that he would have needed. Anyway, nevertheless, when his time came up to testify, you know the story. They frickin' killed him and said it was suicide. Oh my God, man! It's business as usual.
Well, one of the victims that had died months before the actual event happened of cyanide-laced Tylenol, they called it suicide, and 6 months later, the FBI comes up with a suicide letter that he sent to his mother. After the murders, after the 1982, after September 29th, and 7 people died, and they couldn't suppress this information that people are dying from cyanide, they ended up, I can't even imagine what the numbers are. I can't even tell you. We did a statistics, we've got a statistics thing written of the chances of 7 people dying of Tylenol, of cyanide-based Tylenol, and there's only 8 bottles, and the 8th bottle was planted. How in the world do you have 7 people, healthy people, aged 12 to 35, all in one day, buying this? The only way you can feed that lie is to make it like it's on the store shelves. But there had to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are dead that could have been on their deathbed already, or maybe they were driving and they got in a car crash after they're taking it. And being that my mom is the smoking gun in this whole thing, because my mom got hers dispensed from the hospital after giving birth just 5 days before. So or 6 days before, my mom had just left the hospital with a unit dose package from the hospital, and that's the whole lie in this thing. That's the most intriguing point. That's what blows the whole cover of the
How did this
thing.
Alleged saboteur get into the hospital?
Breaks into a pharmacy in the hospital? Well, if they do this, so what they did with my mom's case was my mom bought regular strength Tylenol. Now, I remember you touched down on that on the 6th when you went through the whole day talking about this, and you said that Johnson & Johnson would not recall regular strength when the mayor of Chicago was saying, we're recalling all Johnson & Johnson products, no Tylenol products whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know Mad Men were like privy to certain lot numbers or a certain time. For the best interest of the people, you would, and the safety, you would recall all of this. Well, my mom bought regular strength Tylenol, but she was murdered by extra strength Tylenol that happened to be in the bottle. And the only thing that I know how it had to have happened was the hospital gives out an 8-pack, a unit dose pack of extra strength Tylenol to all women leaving the hospital that just gave birth. So she leaves the hospital that day with her unit dose package, comes home, takes it, dumps the rest of this plastic package into the regular strength bottle. Now, the investigators that came to our house and collected this evidence know that's exactly what happened. They know exactly what's happened, but they dropped that lot number the next day and you never heard about it again because it linked it back to a hospital, which now would debunk their whole proof theory of a madman going store to store. And that would then put Johnson & Johnson liable for the murders.
Sure. Complete
the guy in the store works great because they're not liable.
My God, man. It's unbelievable.
So yeah, seven victims are, I feel bad for everybody else who died from this. That
when does it take people?
From this.
When does it take people to realize? Every time there's a fiasco like this, you look at the shootings in Columbine. That whole story doesn't add up, and they sealed the documents there. You go to Virginia Tech, that doesn't add up. There was sealing of documents there. The shooting that just took place in Aurora a few months back, the documents were sealed the very day the story broke. My God, none of that story adds up. The shooting in the Safeway there in Arizona with Giffords, and my God, it's just the same crap over and over and over.
I'm good friends with the producers of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995.
Yeah.
And they just released their documentary last year, about that whole thing.
Yeah.
The thing is any major story, like you say, and I say this all the time, any major story that you see on the news is already changed and edited and spoken the way that they want you to think that this happened. And the only way to find the truth, the only way to get a little bit of truth out of the whole thing is to watch local news while the event is going down. Yeah. While the event is going down, like 9/11.
Yeah, I always say that. Record the live broadcast.
Yes.
Then notice how they
change it. Watch your local news while it's happening. Yeah. Because those reporters are on the scene and they're saying all kinds of things.
9/11, they were talking about
nationwide. It's done.
They were talking about explosions all the time on 9/11. It was a given that there were bombs going off. But later they totally removed that, like it was never reported and it was completely dropped.
Yeah, you'll have the reporters actually on the scene and going, "Whoa, there's another one," and then you'll never hear that again. Yeah. So. The local, in our case, go ahead, hon.
I was just going to say, I want to save some questions when I have you guys on, but I was just wondering, what alerted you to the fact that this was a scam? Or, when did you first suspect? Were you suspicious right away, or did this come later?
No, actually, I lived the lie. I believed the lie for 26 and a half years. It was the reactivated case. My good friend and partner here in this whole bit is Scott Bartz. He's the author of the book. I worked with him close in this. Well, he worked for Johnson & Johnson. He worked for Johnson & Johnson as a sales rep. He had seen some fraudulent billing going on through Medicaid. He went to the FBI, and something different. It had nothing to do with the murders. Yeah. He had seen some things at his work, and he worked for them for 7 years. He went to the FBI as a whistleblower and went to work the next day to find out he didn't have a job anymore. So he already knew there was a cozy relationship between the FBI and Johnson & Johnson. So he said, oh my gosh, so he loses his job and goes home and says, if they're this shady over something like this, he started looking into the murders. Well, he did that, and when he started looking into the murders, that's when he went and sent all this information and started putting in FOIA requests. So as soon as he started putting in the FOIA request, nobody else had ever done it. He realized he was being stalked by the FBI.
Bingo.
They're following him around until he has a heart attack and everything else. It's crazy. So he
he had a heart attack, really?
Yeah, because the FBI is following him around all day long. Yeah, he's fine now. Oh,
my gosh, we ran out of time. That's the end of the show. I'm so wow.
Oh, God.
I didn't even realize. Well, like I said, email me and we'll get you on.
Rising.
Okay.